Welcome everyone to the third in a three-part series on It's My Life Social Explorations. It's a social self-directed care program that Mental Health America has been piloting in the Virginia area for the last couple of years. And we're going to go ahead and get started now. So, Siobhan?
So as our presenters today, we have Patrick Hendry, who is the Vice President of Peer Advocacy Support and Services for Mental Health America. And he's been working as an advocate in mental health for the past 24 years. He has numerous awards and accolades, too many to be mentioned. And he is the director of this program.
And our other presenter is Siobhan Carpenter. Siobhan is a certified peer support specialist and a counselor. She's also had experience dealing with co-occurring disorders. She's the head life coach for the program, and her philosophy was to assist participants to connect with what is most important to them and to make choices from love rather than fear. Just a little bit about Mental Health America. Mental Health America is the nation's oldest and largest advocacy and education organization. It was founded in 1909 by Clifford Beers, an individual living with mental health issues himself who had been hospitalized and dedicated the rest of his life to making a better life for people living with mental health challenges. Mental Health America helps to empower and support people with mental illnesses, and we embrace social justice and emphasize autonomy, dignity, and inclusion. The It's My Life program was started because many people, when they're faced with the symptoms and the ramifications of living with a psychiatric disorder, face the problems of social exclusion and isolation. And it's one of the most difficult problems to overcome. Most mental health programs have some type of social skills training, but they have very limited success in really connecting people to friends and family and to community. This is a very innovative program in that we use the evidence-based practices of psychiatric rehabilitation and peer support and the emerging best practice of self-directed care. It's individualized, person-centered, and strength-based. Social inclusion, so individuals feel less isolated, which helps to increase self-esteem and self-worth, improves overall functioning with networks that include supportive and sustainable relationships that will increase each person's quality of life. This is a non-clinical program. We designed it that way from the beginning, so we tried to eliminate all clinical language. The only clinical information we asked for in the program was that in the pilot, we collected diagnosis and prior hospitalizations for the 2 years prior to entering the program. During the pilot, we selected people living with schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder because with these disorders, people have the most difficult time creating bonds and friendships and connections to community, and often feel very isolated from the people around them. Given the complexity of these conditions and that social functioning impairments seem to be evident at all stages of the illnesses, people living with them are having an extremely difficult time building friendships and relationships and participating in the life of the community. Traditional approaches such as medication, hospitalization, and psychotherapy have limited effects when applied to socialization. Although the pilot of this program was directed at people with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorders, the principles and practices of social self-directed care can be applied with any mental health challenges. The pilot program focused on the most isolated and marginalized individuals in the community. The impairments in social functionings and influence the lives of people with schizophrenia are really well captured in a single thought, and that's that the majority of the people with these disorders do not marry. Compared with people in the general population, People living with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder are more than 6 times less likely to remain unmarried. Siobhan?
A little more on our focus today. We are looking at the relationship between the life coach and the participants of the program. So what we're looking at is a diagram of how the process works, starting from the bottom with recruitment and coach training that takes place within the organization that's going to run the program. And from there, they form a partnership with the participant once the training is completed. And they build on their skills, they build on their social skills, the ability to network and communicate, and all those skills necessary for interacting with the community of their choice. And the coach then joins along with them in social outings and things of that nature until the participant becomes comfortable and skilled enough to operate on their own in the community, at which point they are able to join the community on their own without the needed support of the life coach. And that's the desired outcome for each participant within the program. So in this process, this is the forming the partnership process that comes after recruiting individuals for the program and before the skill building. And so at the getting acquainted stage and the explanation of the program, they learn about what the program is. The participants meet with all available life coaches, and they learn what the program does and doesn't do, what the life coach is there for and what the life coach is not there for, setting boundaries, and just clarifying any questions that they have. So they go over the manual, the handbook that each participant receives, and they also go over some forms that we're going to talk about today. And they also go over goal setting, which we're also going to talk about today. So as I said, participants were given the opportunity to choose their own life coach, given that they were of the same gender. We were careful about the male-female dynamic because we wanted to consider and avoid transference and counter-transference as well. So the participants were introduced to all life coaches that fit their gender, and they were able to decide who was most compatible to them, who they feel they could relate to. And that's the very beginning of the self-directed model and application to this program, is that they're already in control of choosing who they want their coach to be. So the strength of the peer relationship comes from disclosure, strategic self-disclosure, trust and credibility that takes place during the regular meetings between the life coach and the participants. Challenges are post the relationship by disclosure because it can create a sense of intimacy that defy boundaries if the life coach is not careful. The training that we are offering enables the life coaches to learn what those proper boundaries are and how to properly enforce those. And sharing personal stories, of course, must be timely, focused, and selected to the participant's comfort, situation, and needs, and that's a part of the basic peer support training. Life coaches and peer supporters are valued for their skills and experience in recovery and wellness. This experiential knowledge is manifested through self-disclosure that we talked about. The power of self-disclosure lies in vulnerability, empathy, authenticity, and honesty. Disclosure supports solidarity and at the same time risks shifting the focus from the participant, which can elicit role reversal, something else that we want to avoid.
I understand a few people are having a difficult time hearing us, so we'll try to speak up a little bit louder for you. I also wanted to let you know that we will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, but you can type them into the chat box at any time. When people are excluded from day-to-day activities of their community, whether it's because of their illness or because of societal discrimination, They either lose or never learn the skills necessary to successfully navigate socially or to seek out, initiate, and form new bonds and friendships. Coaches assist people in identifying interesting activities in the community, learning where they are available, and then participating in those activities, which give them opportunities to meet other people with similar interests. Using the skills that they learned through the It's My Life program, participants learn to approach new people, initiate conversations, and create new relationships. These things are very difficult for some people. Finding others with similar interests is a key ingredient of identifying potential friends and acquaintances. It forms the basis for conversation and continued connection. By continuing to participate in activities shared with people with similar interests, people build familiarity with one another, and seemingly insurmountable social barriers are overcome. So as people go to activities that they enjoy and meet other people with similar interests, they begin to find people that can be potential friends or acquaintances. Repeated exposure to experiences and other people lessens the feelings of social anxiety and shyness. It's so often felt by those of us who have experienced isolation and social exclusion. For some of us, just starting a conversation with a stranger can open doorways to a whole new life. These are some of the tools that we use when we're working with people when they're getting prepared to go out into the community and meet new people. All of these tools are available on our website, which is www.mentalhealthamerica.net, and then search on Social Self-Directed Care. The coaches work with people to learn skills for building friendships, and they provide them with skill sheets that they can utilize throughout the period of the program. They also work on communication skills in general, and in doing this, they use a lot of role plays where people get a chance to practice their conversational skills before they're exposed to the community. Siobhan?
The participants in the It's My Life Social Explorations program received a monthly allowance of $60 to be spent on advancing toward the 3 goals of their choice. And those goals were set with the help of the life coach and some of the worksheets that are given in the handbook. So those main worksheets are the social assessment evaluation, the social goal establishment form, and the quarterly goal accomplishment plan form, which are provided in the handbook, and the amount was pending completion of weekly journaling and consistently providing proof of purchase in the form of receipts for how the money was spent. So if the journaling was not completed, participants must be willing to spend time with their coach to complete the journaling. Otherwise, the amount of their monthly allowance would be deducted by 50%. Similarly, if they did not provide receipts on a regular basis, then or spent the money on unauthorized expenses, the allowance for the following month would be reduced by the amount unaccounted for or incorrectly spent. So this form is the social assessment evaluation. This is an example of what it looks like once it's completed by the participant. And so it talks about what are some of the challenges to your social goals, or it's just kind of assessing their current social situation, where it is now, and eventually where they would like it to be. So there are questions like, do you have any health concerns that could keep you from participating in social events? Because, having mental health issues typically coincides with some other physical issues as well. And so we want to be considerate of those things, the limitations that are posed by health conditions, and work with the coach and the participant to find a plan that accommodates for those ailments as well. So we ask the participants to look at the people in their lives, their relationships, who they depend on for support, how they connect with these people, what means of communication do they use, how often do they see them, what places they like to go or do, what interests them in their social environment. So they also get to look at positive things in their lives, accomplishments that they've had, and if they feel they haven't had any accomplishments, then they assess what happened in their lives or why they think that hasn't happened for them. The social goal establishment is the first step really to making the goals once they've decided what they want their social life to look like. So they look at where they like to spend their time. They look for opportunities to increase their social networking, to increase their activity in the community of their choosing. So it really helps them to identify what is the community of their choice. And then once this is completed, they will be able to identify 3 specific social goals that they have for themselves for the near future. So you can see examples here on this particular one. Go back to volunteering, start going to Bible study, or rejoin the church choir. Those are 3 goals that a participant might have, and that might be what they want to do to get themselves back into the community of their choice. So it is self-directed in that they choose their goals. The coach just guides them there. So once they've selected their 3 goals, there's the quarterly goal accomplishment plan, which is done on a quarterly basis. And they look further into each goal, and the questions are repeated for each goal has the same set of questions. So they're repeated for each goal. They look at the steps that they can take to reach their first goal. They look at steps that they've already taken. They look at any obstacles that might be in the way. And they look at how they might progress toward that particular goal. So you'll see down at question 11, this is the same as question number 1 in reference to now referring to the second goal. So it'll ask the same questions. They'll look at, again, what the goal is, what they need to achieve the goal, where they need to go, what resources they need, what challenges could be in the way, things of that nature. They'll look at that for each goal that they've set. This is the budget form that was provided to each participant, which was done on a monthly basis once they reassess their goals each month with their coach. And so each goal was accounted for as far as what they wanted to spend their money on. The money had to be spent on something directly connected to one of their social goals. So, for example, here, they would choose an activity or an item that they wanted to purchase. They would say what was the connection to the goal and how much they planned on spending on that particular item. And so they would do that for everything, for their entire $60 for the month. They also had the option of saving up to 50% of it each month to save for something larger. And you'll hear about one of our participants who did just that when she was enrolled in the program. This next form is the budget tracking form. This is how they reported how they spent the money, what their receipts were for, and how that related to the goal, and they would track their balance this way, which is really helpful if they were saving money for a larger goal. And so that this would be done monthly as well to make sure that all the receipts are accounted for and that they're spending the money appropriately.
As Siobhan mentioned earlier, each person keeps what we refer to as a guided journal. It's guided in the sense that there's a series of specific questions we ask people to reply to, and then we also have them journal free form. And this is a way to kind of see how they feel about the program and the progress they're being made. So on this particular page, we asked them to write a few paragraphs about what they did during the week and how they feel about it. We asked people what the goals are that they worked on during the week and what they did to achieve those goals. We asked if they had any kinds of transportation issues, any problems getting to the activities they wanted to do, and then what happened when they got there. We also asked people to talk about what they like, because this is a strength-based program, and so if people focus on the things that are beneficial to them and positive feeling, they're much more likely to continue with the activities. We asked people to figure out what they might have done differently if they felt like they didn't achieve their goals for the week, and how they felt about it later after the activity was over. Then we asked them what skills they feel they've learned during the week and the skills that they used. And then we asked what skills they might want to learn. After that, we asked them to state their goals for the coming week. Once participants have established their goals and come up with a plan to accomplish them, the coach assists them with carrying out their plans. The coach provides encouragement, support, and feedback to the participant as they work together in partnership. Coaches don't adhere to traditional boundaries. In the beginning of the relationship, the coach is both a mentor and a friend to the individual. As each person begins to identify their own social goals and activities that interest them, the coach often goes with them into the community. They might meet regularly for a cup of coffee and conversation, or they might attend an event in the community. Coaches model how friends interact through conversation and activities, but it's very important that the coach always makes it clear to the person they're working with that the goal of these activities is for the person to learn these skills for building friendships and relationships with other people in the community. And this program is directed at taking people outside of the mental health world and beginning to build relationships in the greater community around them. As participants begin to build new relationships, the coaches slowly begin to decrease the time they spend with each individual, because the ultimate goal is for the coach to be a friendly helper who's available when needed, and people go on to form permanent bonds and relationships. When coaches model the qualities that form friendships, people learn not only how to be a friend, but also how to recognize when someone is a true friend. They learn that friends are honest, understanding, supportive, and loyal. They learn that having friends is both a gift and an obligation. When most people talk about their own personal recovery, one of the things that is most often mentioned is the importance of having at least one person who believes in you, one friend.
So some of the examples of the activities that we engaged in the program during the pilot program. We're going to the circus, ballet classes. There was an individual who hosted a party at her house using her stipend. Individuals took baking classes. There was one participant who was extremely excited once she got in the program, and the first outing we did was to go to Starbucks. She had never been to Starbucks before, and it was just an amazing experience for her and for me as her coach to see how much of a difference this makes in her life to be able to get out and be a part of the community for something as simple as going to Starbucks for a cup of coffee. So we transition here from the coach always being present to being there with them as they engage other people, friends that they've met along the way, using their new skills. And eventually the coach transitions out gradually so that the participant is able to stand on their own using their new skills to form their own relationships and to maintain their own social networks. So this is a step-down process where initially it's the participant and the coach together, working on skills, going out in the community, and then it comes down to the participant, the coach, and a friend, so that the participant can feel more comfortable in the social situation because there's someone there that they know and they trust. And then eventually they are able to stand on their own, and they no longer need their coach there with them. They feel comfortable in their social situation. They feel comfortable in their community and around the people that they've chosen to be with. So here's an example of where some of our participants are today. This particular participant set a goal to improve and share her musical talents. She had a piano in her home, but she hardly ever used it, and she hadn't played in years. So she used her stipend to purchase sheet music and learn some new songs. And she now plays every week on the weekends at a local senior living facility, playing the piano for the residents there. And she loves that volunteer position. It's something that she's very proud of today. Another young lady set a goal to increase her social support network. She is now a peer support specialist herself and facilitates the mental health recovery groups using the skills she learned at her own and her own lived experience. She is a facilitator with the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, and she also facilitated a training session on recovery at the DBSA annual retreat last year. Another young lady had a goal of increasing her level of activity in the community. She now helps people to access important resources such as food banks and clothing closets. She provides them with pamphlets and information of where to locate these resources, and sometimes even provides transportation for them. Another young lady had a goal to manage her anxiety in social situations so that she would feel more comfortable leaving her house. We always met at her house. She didn't want to leave. We did eventually get to the point where she was comfortable leaving her house as long as she was with me, but we wanted her to grow beyond that, and she wanted to grow beyond that to where she could have the friends that she wanted to have and have the connections that she wanted to have. So now she has a volunteer job and is also a part-time student at George Mason University. So she was able to learn skills to overcome her social anxieties and other fears that she had, limitations in her social abilities, and now she's able to go back to school with her ultimate goal right now of getting a job once she's done with schooling. And she's been out of work for about 20 years. And so she's really looking forward to the possibility of going back into the workforce. Another young lady, this is actually the same woman who was excited to go to Starbucks. She had a goal to increase what she referred to as her intellectual property. As part of that, she wanted to learn how to use a camera. She saved part of her stipend each month and was able to purchase her own digital camera. She now records the services at her local church in the media ministry, and she also likes to walk around, especially in D.C., and take pictures with her new digital camera. And she's looking to join a photography club as well.
It's My Life is a really unique program, and it's been highly successful. When we designed this program, we looked at several indicators to see how successful the program was and whether or not it was actually helping people. The first thing we did was we interviewed people using a tool called Personal Outcome Measures, which looks at 21 quality of life indicators. So whether or not people feel they have friends, they feel that they're treated with respect in the community, that they're connected to the life of their community, whether they're comfortable in the place they live, a number of different issues. We also asked people, as we mentioned before, to keep a journal so that we could see how they felt about the program going through it. And each person, you could see their growth as they went through it. And people reported just amazing outcomes. I remember the first time the woman who went to Starbucks put in her journal that she had started a conversation with a stranger, and it was the first time in her life she had done it. When we did the baseline interviews, 100% of the people that came into the program reported that they didn't have friends. When we finished the program, 100% of the people said that they now had friends, and the majority of them said they had as many friends as they would like. Our participants have found new meanings in their lives and gone on to build lasting relationships and connections to their communities. These kinds of connections have ongoing effects. We found that not only did people feel more comfortable in their life and feel that the quality of their life was better, but their overall health outcomes were better, which was really surprising to us. We weren't looking for that when we started the program. The other thing that we looked at from the very beginning was we asked people how many hospitalizations they had had in the 2 years prior to entering the program. And in the first group of women that came in, 20 women, they had had 15 hospitalizations in the previous 2 years. At the end of 20 months, which was the amount of time we ran the pilot program, there was 1 hospitalization for the entire group. Rehospitalization rates went down over 90%. We did the personal outcome measure interviews on a quarterly basis, and we saw by the end of the program that people rated their quality of life as going up 63% during the period of the program. We also did a satisfaction survey that we did anonymously so that people could answer questions honestly without fear of embarrassment or having their coaches feel like they were checking up on them. And we had about an 80% extremely high rating, the highest rating that people could give us on the satisfaction survey. The most important aspects of the program has been the nature of the peer relationship and establishing meaningful goals. For people who have lived with mental health issues for much of their life, particularly people who have been hospitalized and in treatment for many years, setting goals is very difficult. Very often when you ask somebody what are their goals, their first answer is going to be to stay out of the hospital or to stay on my meds. But those aren't their real goals. Their goals are something that touches them much deeper. So we go through a very intricate process of having people dig down deep to find out what will really drive them to change their life and to take risks. Because going out and talking to a stranger can be a risk. Going out into the community and going to a meetup group or a class or a concert can be a risk for people who have been socially isolating for years or been feeling like they've been pushed to the margins of society. After people set these goals, then they begin to build action steps to achieve them, and they break down the barriers that have prevented them from finding friendships and connectivity in the community. This program is really highly relevant to any whole health approach to behavioral health. We not only dealt with just social activities, but we also worked with people on things like shared decision making and whole health goals. The program is an excellent program to be run by a peer-run organization because it lends itself to the very nature of the peer relationship. The savings that it finds in the reduction of emergency services, overall health reduction, cost reductions, and lowered rehospitalization rates makes it an affordable service for managed care and state-funded programs. Having focused on one of the most marginalized group of people in the world and receiving such remarkable results, it's really reasonable to expect that even better outcomes would be achieved for individuals with less challenges in their life, but still facing mental health issues. Training is available. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, I thought you were going to talk. Training is available for those who wish to begin operating It's My Life just by contacting us. All of these webinars are available online at mentalhealthamerica.net/MHA-webinars. In it, you can download, we have a full manual for the program. We have all of the tools and skill building exercises that we use and all of the forms that are needed for the program. There's brochures to promote the program. There's contacts for each of us and coaching resources, shared decision-making information, and any other type of information that might be needed to proceed with the program. For additional information, you can contact Siobhan at the email address listed here or by going on our website, or me at this website. And again, our overall website is www.mentalhealthamerica.net. And now we're going to take a few questions. First question I see is the 60% stipend taxable income, and how does this affect someone on SSI or SSDI benefits? No, it's not taxable because it's actually part of a service. It's not an income to the person. And it also doesn't affect their SSI because we kept it at $60, which is an amount you can always receive without affecting SSI. SSDI has a much higher level of income that you can receive before it's gainful employment. Next question, for some folks the paperwork could be a real difficult problem to complete. How much help are they entitled to by their coach? Siobhan, you want to take that one?
Sure. They were provided as much support and assistance as they needed. Some folks weren't very comfortable writing, and so I would even hold the pen and do the writing for them, but it was their own words. It was their own expression and at their own pace. So if they didn't have the time or the energy to go through all the worksheets in one sitting, we could just take it little by little, go through a few questions today, and then our next meeting go through the next few questions until we got through everything. And the more we did it, the more they were able to take it on as their own and take ownership of it and do more themselves. So even that became a growing process, doing that paperwork quarterly. The main paperwork was done just the one time at the initial meeting to set the goals and to get in the habit and the familiar with the process of goal setting. And after that, it was just done on a quarterly basis.
Sylvan would like to know how to enroll in the program. Currently, we're not running the program in Virginia. We did 2 years of piloting the program, and right now what we're doing is giving the program away to anybody else who would like to replicate it around the country. As I said, there's manuals and all of the materials available on the website, plus you can contact us by email or telephone, and we're happy to give you any additional information you might need. It's a wonderful program, and we're hoping to see it replicated around the country. The next question is, this has been a great presentation, and I may have missed the mention of this, but I wonder if any participants were interested in or used online communities to connect to others and relieve social isolation. Siobhan?
Yes, actually we did have individuals who used social networking and online communities. We had individuals do meetup groups. That's how they found out about some of the things that they were interested in. We had one young lady do a dating site, online dating site, to go out on a date, and that was one of the goals that she had. She wanted to get back into the dating world, and so she used an online dating community to find someone to go out with, and they actually met up and had their first date. So that is a resource that we use. People found networking events through Facebook, through Craigslist, through meetup groups, various online resources to find activities and things to do and to connect to people. Online support groups was another thing that people found helpful to help them just kind of get their feet wet and get started in interacting with other people, because it felt safe to do it online as just a starter for being ready to go out into the community.
Mike Hudson asks, when a participant is saving for something, do they need to supply a deposit receipt from a financial institute with their other receipts? And the answer is no, they don't. If somebody wants to save their funds, that's fine with us. We trust people. We tried not to make the program too burdensome. We just wanted to make sure that people were actually spending their funds with social activities. Because, you know, when you live on SSI, and 100% of the people in our program were on SSI, and so when you're living on $730 a month to pay all of your expenses, an extra $60 just for social activities is quite a lot, and it actually allows you to do quite a few things. And people were very creative in the ways that they spent their money. Next question is, how are we funded? Do the participants pay, or do you bill insurance companies? The pilot program was funded both by Mental Health America directly and through a grant that we received from Janssen Pharmaceuticals. It's totally a non-clinical program, so Janssen asked nothing from us in return other than we acknowledge the fact that they helped us to run the program. But because of the savings, and we have the statistics to back it up, we expect that people, when they try to implement the program in their communities, will be able to go to state funding sources, county funding sources, or other grant services, and be able to show that the savings that this program produces more than pays for the cost of the program. Basically, all that's involved in the program is having peer specialists involved as coaches. Initially, our peer specialists went through some very intensive training. They each took a 60-hour course through Boston University online in psychiatric rehabilitation. They also took training in professional life coaching, and they also had to learn self-directed care. But as we went through the program, we identified what were the important components, and we built that into our manual and the webinars that we've done so far. So it's not that expensive for people to get the training they need to implement the program now. So it just requires peer specialists, and then a $60 a month payment for people. It can be less if that's all the program can afford. It can be more if a program can afford more than that. The important thing is that people have something that they can spend to actually go out and do these things in the community. Don't know of any insurance companies that would pay for this program right now, but I think some of the managed care companies have been looking at it and may be offering it in the near future. Siobhan, could you describe the recruitment process to get people into it?
Sure. We started by meeting with the local community mental health center and their PACS program, their program for assertive community treatment, and met with them because they had a lot of individuals there who were receiving the most intensive services that you could receive on an outpatient basis. And so we thought they might have some candidates there for us that would be good for the program. But it is self-directed, so individuals basically enroll themselves. We didn't necessarily take recommendations from therapists. There was no one saying that they had to be in the program. There was no one forcing them into it. It was all at their own discretion, at their own choice. So it was all voluntary. So we did flyers, we did presentations at community health centers, at drop-in centers. We did presentations at the Lori Mitchell Empowerment Center, places where mental health consumers generally go to be with other people, to be in a safe place. And we also advertised online through our Facebook page. We also put flyers in the libraries, places where the mainstream mental health may not be, so that folks could hear about us. We went to crisis centers, everywhere we could think of to reach out to people, to let them know about our program and that it was available for them.
Siobhan, could you give them your phone number so that people can contact you directly?
Absolutely. My number, and this is my cell number, 703-946-0529. Again, that's 703-946-0529.
I see Doug asks if we're familiar with the You Face Me technology methodology developed by Jim Ayers in Minnesota. I'm not familiar with it. Are you, Siobhan?
No, I'm not.
Next question, what resources are available to sustain the program? This is a phenomenal program. What resources are available to other states, county agencies to get this started? And again, that's going to be on an individual community by community basis. Some of our affiliates are interested in starting the program, either using their own funds that they raise independently. We know that some counties are interested in implementing it using county funds. I've talked to a couple of the managed care companies that are interested. There are grants through foundations for it. So people, you have to get creative to find funding for any kind of new program. We don't have funding available through our office to start new programs, but we're more than willing to give you all of the information and resources necessary to do it. Next question, how are learning styles incorporated into It's My Life? And do participants create their own list of skills, or is a skill list provided with their input? Siobhan?
Sorry, can you repeat that question for me, Patrick?
How are learning skills incorporated into the program, and do participants create their own list of skills, or is a skill list provided with their input?
Well, we generally started with a skill assessment form, or survey rather, where they could look at certain skills that we've found to be important in social interactions and just rate themselves on how they feel about their strengths or weaknesses on those particular skills. And then also suggest anything else that they want to work on. The journals, the guided journals, ask a question of what skills they had worked on that week, what skills they had learned, and what skills they would like to learn. So that also developed as the person was enrolled in the program, as they discovered new skills that they wanted to learn. So even their skills were self-directed.
Cindy wants to know if a certificate's available for the training, and yes, it is. If you'll contact Siobhan at the email address listed on the screen, she'll be happy to send you a certificate for the webinar.
Please do note that these are not for CEUs. They are not continuing education credits or units.
Bruce asks, what is best, individual or groups to work? It's off the screen, to work this program. Siobhan, you want to take that?
We did mostly individual, one-on-one, one coach with one participant. Of course, each coach was assigned more than one participant, but they were just done individually because it's stronger relationship building that way. But we did have group gatherings, I believe 3 or 4 times, where all the participants got together to meet each other at a social event and share their experiences with the program, things that they had done, things that they would like to do. And it was at one of those gatherings that a few of the ladies decided that they wanted to go to the circus, and we began to coordinate it there at our social gathering.
I think we missed a question before asking if Siobhan was the only coach. No, for each group of 20 people, we had 2 coaches available, so a coach could work with 10 people. They possibly can work with a few more, but the more time you can give to individuals, the more successful the program is. So for funding needs, you can work with as high as 15 people per coach. Callie says, I work for Compass Health in Washington State in wraparound programs. How do we get kids involved to receive the $60 stipend? Would this funding come from our company or another resource? Well, it would be a wonderful program for kids, and we haven't tried it with kids, but I think it would work just as well. I would suggest that you make sure that the coaches that you use are young adults themselves so that they can relate to younger people. The funding will come from whatever source you can find in your local community to fund the overall program. And then the second to last question is, do you have to have a mental illness to be a coach? No, you don't. We used all peer specialists for ours, and I think it's well suited to peer specialists because that peer connection makes it much easier for people to relate to one another so that you come into the relationship on an equal basis with the person you're working with. But this program could be done by somebody else as long as they have a really good understanding of recovery and the role that individuals play in supporting each other to find their way towards recovery, and also a good knowledge of the community and what's available in the community. And then the final question is, what about OCD? Siobhan, do you have an answer for that?
Sure. I think this program can work for just about any population. It can be tweaked. We had individuals who did have OCD in addition to the schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. And so it just proposed an extra challenge for us to have to work around. But it was something that we were able to manage to find out, what the tendencies were, what comforts were needed, what adjustments needed to be made in order to be able to have this person go out into the community. So really it was about learning coping skills, learning how to deal with the obsessive-compulsive disorder in social environments and not allow that to hinder the person from being out in the community. So there were other diagnoses in addition to the schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, individuals with dissociative identity disorder, individuals with various mood disorders and things of that nature. So it is definitely possible to use this program with pretty much any mental health concern.
Well, I want to thank you all for attending. I want to remind you that the webinars will be available online in 2 weeks. The first 2 webinars in the series are already online, and that's at www.mentalhealthamerica.com/MHA-webinars. And you can download the webinars there, and then you can also go on the website to download all of the course materials. So we thank you for participating in this webinar, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact either Siobhan or myself. Thank you, everyone.